climate change. Our next guest is a physicist. He says carbon dioxide emissions are something that the world has seen for its entire history and can actually be beneficial to an ecosystem rather than a burden. He argues that rising CO2 levels are only very weakly linked to rising temperatures and actually would increase productivity. But he's Professor William Happer of Princeton University, who co-wrote the article in the journal called In Defense of Carbon Dioxide. It appeared in the journal a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Harrison Schmitt. And you're a physicist, so we're immediately going to hear that you're not really, you don't have enough background to be judging climate science at this point, and that 98% of climate scientists say there is a link between carbon dioxide and warming. You say there's not, or a very weak link.
Well, you can look at the record, geological record, and, we have proxies for carbon dioxide over millions of years, hundreds of millions of years.
And we're at 400 parts per million.
Right.
In the past, we've seen what type of levels in the past?
4,000.
4,000 parts per million. All right.
Oh, but now...
Hold on. I saw Al Gore say these are the highest levels in human history. If you look at the length, if you look at the age of the Earth, and represented in hours of a day, the Earth is 24 hours old. Man has been around for 11 seconds out of the 24 hours. So it's true that we haven't been at 400 parts per million, but we've been at 1,000 parts per million. We've been at 4,000 parts per million in the Phanerozoic era, correct? Mm-hmm. Did you see warming, and do we know whether the warming came before the CO2 levels went up or as a result of the CO2 level?
Well, the Earth is almost always warming or cooling. The most dramatic example of that is this series of ice ages that we're living through in the last few million years. But during that time, for sure, there's a correlation between CO2 and temperature, but temperature always changes first and then CO2 follows.
Well, that doesn't help. Here's one of the quotes from the piece, and we'll also, hopefully we can look at a couple of charts. The cessation of observed global warming for the past decade has shown how exaggerated NASA and other computer predictions of warming have been and how little they correlate. I hope we can look at, has there been any global temperature increase since 1998?
No.
All of this with Piers Corbyn. He's the founder of the Weather Action Foundation. Joins me now live in London. So Canada withdrew from the treaty, saying it's meaningless without the involvement of the world's two worst polluters, China and the US. But surely Canada's being irresponsible, is it not, by not playing its part in battling climate change?
Well, of course, I don't believe in man-made climate change because there is no evidence for it. In fact, carbon dioxide is controlled by world temperatures rather than the other way around. So, frankly, I'm glad that Canada have left the Kyoto Protocol process, and I hope it heralds the collapse of the whole thing. But
do you believe there is actually climate change going on, though?
Oh, climate change is going on, and the key aspects of the big, very extreme events that happened in the last 18 months were predicted by us at Weather Action using solar activity. Carbon dioxide has zero effect. I repeat, zero effect. No effect whatsoever. They have no evidence for their claims, only evidence against.
So this Kyoto agreement, is it a waste of time? And indeed, we see Canada pulling out of it, and the treaty is supposed to be continuing until 2017. Do you think other countries will pull out?
Well, I think so, and I hope so. It is a complete waste of time. It's a waste of public money. It's a gravy train for so-called scientists looking into things which don't exist, and of course for governments to impose taxations and oil companies to increase oil prices on the back of increasing energy prices, which is a thing demanded by the global warmist nonsense lobby.